You are listening to Ace Comicals. I'm Greg, and today I'm joined by my co-host Rahul. Let's go! Hello everybody, and welcome to episode number 43 of Ace Comicals. I'm joined today by a single co-host, and that is Ray.
Evening, Greg.
And as always, I'm Greg, because who else would I be? And welcome to the show. So, been doing a fair bit since the last show. Most of it in New York. I went out on Friday, and since then I've been in blue and red tights, swinging around the city, much to the bemusement and fury and anger of a certain ex-newspaper editor who likes to be really harsh about me. But, you know, I do cool things. I stop muggings. I stop drug deals. I help people in car crashes. I've done all kinds of stuff. So, yeah. How about you, Ray?
I have not been playing Spider-Man, as you just alluded to, because I couldn't get it in time for the weekend. So I've just been listening to you go on and on about how good it is. And you make me sick, frankly. I'm going to be able to play it, hopefully, after this recording. So, I've heard really good things about Spider-Man, and you gushing about it has only helped energize me towards, splashing out and spending money on something that I shouldn't be spending money on.
I've tried not to gush too hard about it, because I've tried, in various communication channels like WhatsApp and things like that. I've tried not to gush at you too hard about it, because I just don't want to, I don't want to make people feel like that. I'm not one of these guys that's just like, oh, look at me, look what I got.
I mean, to be honest, you were the first of the fallen. Like, you weren't supposed to buy it, but you went ahead. Like, you folded quickly.
Yeah. I was at work on Friday. Here's the story, right? I was at work on Friday afternoon, and I'm sitting there in my lunch break, and I'm looking at my social media feeds, and I knew the night before that it was going to be hell that day, because I knew this game was coming out, this Spider-Man game, this free roaming buffet of wonderful delights where you get to swing around a really nicely realised New York City and do all kinds of cool Spider-Man stuff and play a cool Spider-Man story and just be inside a
pair of Spider-Man's pants.
Yeah. a perfectly constructed
pair of Spider-Man's pants. Sorry, continue.
If you want to put it that way, then put it that way. I was going more for something like a microcosm, a universe in a glass globe. And it feels like all the energy I had for Spider-Man when I was like 15 years old, like all the things that I got out of Spider-Man when when I'm playing it, and it's like going through an old trunk in an attic playing that game. It's that kind of, it's got that kind of thing about it for me, and it's great, and I love it, and I love being able to be inside Spider-Man's head and do all this stuff. It's great. It's kind of like the Batman Arkham games are for me, because I like being in there, which was cool.
Yeah, I've heard it follows a very similar model in at least to Arkham City and Arkham.
Yeah.
What was the third one? Arkham Knight.
Yeah, it's got that kind of where you get to explore Gotham in those games. In this one, you're exploring New York, and it's that kind of thing. But it's the main difference for me is it's Spider-Man. So it's colourful and it's optimistic, and it's whereas the Batman games, although they're great and I love me some Batman, it's dour, it's angry, it's brooding, it's Gotham, it's Batman. But this is like bright, optimistic, Spider-Man, fun, uplifting, nice to play. And I mean, the Batman games are nice to play as well, but it's like two different moods. So, yeah.
No, that's definitely the draw for me, is just that it's vibrant and colourful, and it's like happy and lively and Marvel in the way that I love Marvel for. And the fact that it's New York, like anything to do with New York, like that's the main reason that I love GTA 4. Was just going around in like this condensed version of New York, and I'm curious to see, because I've not looked at anything about the map, I've not dived too deep into the reviews for this, but I want to see how accurate a facsimile of real life New York it is, and I'm looking forward to like swinging over Central Park and stuff like that. So
you can do that. You can legit do that. I've been to Central Park in that game.
Epic. Cool.
And it's like, yeah, it's they've. I mean, I've never been to actual New York. Have you? You have, haven't you?
Very briefly. I had 3 days there, and it's not enough time.
But I mean, it's got this whole like it is pretty much it's Marvel New York. So it's New York, and at the same time, it's got these little additional bits and pieces that are really cool because it's Marvel New York.
Without getting too far into it, do you know if it's trying to do a thing where it's almost a one-to-one replica of New York with the same buildings and same skyscrapers or anything? Or is it like the GTA 4 model where they've taken the highlights and condensed it down into a more functional map, which is more interesting than just every single photorealistic side street would be?
I don't know. Because I've not looked that far into it, and I don't know New York well enough, having never been to New York and not being from America. So I don't know how to answer that question. All I know is that for me, it's New York, and it's what I imagine New York from having read a lot of comics set in New York. And it's comic book New York because there's comic book stuff in there. So like, minor spoilers here. There's like a feature where, because Peter Parker's a photographer, he carries a camera around with him. You can go around taking photographs of landmarks.
Okay. And
some of the landmarks are traditional New York landmarks, like the Chrysler Building and stuff like that. And then some of the landmarks are comic book landmarks. So landmarks from the pages of Marvel Comics. So the Sanctum Sanctorum, for example, or the Alias
Fantastic Four's building.
I've not found that yet, but Alias Investigations is there.
Oh, cool.
I've not found the Baxter building yet. So, but yeah, it's like all this kind of stuff in there as well. So, if the Baxter building's in there, I mean, I hope it is. That would be some kind of awesome. Like Sophie was sat there watching me play it the other night, and like when I was like coming across, because she's actually like impressed with it as well. Like she's not really even a gamer, but she's like super impressed with like how well put together this game is. And she's like watching the cutscenes, and she's like, it's like watching a film. So like, because she watches the Marvel TV shows with me and things like that, and she gets into this stuff a little bit sometimes. So. And she's impressed with it, and every time I come across something, I'm just like, oh, check it out, look at that, it's Doctor Strange's house, it's Doctor Strange's house, and things like that, and I'm pointing at the screen and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm like a little kid. It's great. But yeah, for me, it's like being able to be the Spider-Man fan that I was again, and being able to like, especially on like, the first time sticking that disc in and playing it and getting to swing around New York and do exactly what Spider-Man does, and this kind of like really well realized version of Spider-Man, the way that he moves and everything else, and the things that you can do. I mean, like it's got all this feature in it where you can swap suits and things like that, but I keep him in the classic suit. I don't like this. I'm not the fan of the suit they made for the game. They've got a new design of the suit for the game with a white spider on it and stuff, and I'm like, nah, don't want that one. I'm keeping him in the classic Spider-Man suit. And obviously you can do that. It allows for that because any mods that you get off the other suits when you buy the other suits, but with the points that you earn in the game and whatever, like certain things that you earn by doing certain missions, you can transfer the mods across to whichever suit you prefer.
Yeah, I've heard that. So you can pick and choose the aesthetic, but then keep the like the features and movesets and stuff from one and the other. It sounds like they've really gone and like pandered, but in the best way to the fans, like given everything they can.
You can tell how much love and devotion has gone into making it, to make it into something that is like I said, it's like being able to step inside a Spider-Man snow globe, and everything that Spider-Man is inside that snow globe, and you get to be in there and play around with it. It's great. It's the best way to describe it, like a microcosm, Spider-Man microcosm, and you get to go in there and be part of that for a small amount of time. Yes.
But the more we talk about it, the less time I have in the evening to play it after this cast is over. So let's move on to the comics. So what are the Marvel Marvel adjacent or Marvel properties have you been reading? Because I know you've been reading something.
Oh man, loads of stuff. Like highlights for me this weekend was the third issue of Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Yeah, which is absolutely brilliant, and I've been tweeting about it, and I've updated the playlist. If you've been listening to the cast, you'll know that I've made a playlist, or if you've been following my Twitter feed, you'll know that I've made a playlist, and it's been updated. So there's more new tracks on there, and I've been trying to keep it cosmic metal. There's a bit of like rebellious thrash in there as well, because that's what Frank Castle is. So
I haven't listened to your playlist since you first put it up, so I'm gonna have to check it out again.
What did you think to the first barrage?
It's great to listen to while I'm working, because it's like sometimes you want to block out people, and I also don't want to pay too much attention to the lyrics, and it's that specific mix of like just enough noise and fury to like distract me from the outside world and get on with my work. It's great for that. Yeah,
and some of
I haven't sat down and read comics to it yet, because I think it would distract me from that. But yeah,
some of it's fairly instrumental, so it's pretty good for that as well. Because I've got some really chuggy, digenty, fairly instrumental stuff on there. Some
chuggy,
all sorts of stuff. Yeah, chuggy like type stuff.
I got it.
But yeah, it's really cool. So you should check it out if you're a fan of Baroness Mastodon, Devin Townsend Project, ISIS, Municipal Waste, Nuclear Assault, Metallica, to name a few of the things I've put on there. And I've also it's been a week for Cosmic Marvel stuff, because there's a new Thanos book that I read as well, which was Thanos Legacy, which sort of like carries on from where the Thanos miniseries that I've reviewed on here previously ends, where Thanos has to the Thanos wins thing that I talked about, where Thanos goes forward in time, meets an older version of himself, and decides not to kill himself and not to give himself what he wants, because this is Thanos we're talking about, and he revels in other people's misery, and comes back forward in time again, and this picks up where that leaves off, and is another Donny Cates book that feeds into the other Donny Cates Marvel books. Yeah, it's all fantastic. He's really, 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 really doing well at the moment, like with these Marvel stories, and he seems to be having so much fun with the characters they give him. And I'm having so much fun reading him having so much fun with these characters. Like, I think at this moment in time, I can say that Donny Cates is... I mean, I've probably already said this on the cast, but Donny Cates is probably one of my favourite writers. Like, that will go down as a thing, like, on my list of favourite writers, like, on my shelf. Donny Cates is there. So, yeah. I mean, I love his stuff. Some of his Image stuff is really good as well. Like, stuff that we've talked about previously on the cast. I won't go too much into it, but... Redneck, God Country, all that stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, spectacular artwork in those two books.
And yeah, that brings me on to the third and final Cosmic Silver Surfer book I read this weekend, which now this one is pretty special. This is the Silver Surfer Annual #1. Which is the 2018 Silver Surfer Annual, because obviously there's been other Silver Surfer Annuals. But this kind of like hit me for six when I read this, because it's this wonderfully heartbreaking story from the origins of the Silver Surfer. I think I remember talking about putting it on my pull list last time. And I was saying, I hope it's something new, and then I read the blurb for it and I go, okay, it is actually going to be something new. But it's like the story of the thing that broke him. The first time that he led... So after striking a deal with Galactus for the safety of his homeworld, which we all know is the Silver Surfer's tragic origin, this is the first time that he led Galactus to an inhabited planet. And it is really, really good. It's really wonderful. It's a pretty heartbreaking story. It's just, yeah, the art is spot on for the kind of cosmic spacescapes that we're getting treated to, and these other worlds that they show us. And this just has this wonderful fineness about it. The art does. It's just lines and details, and the colours complement it perfectly. It comes together to build this like beautiful spacescape. And it's just, it's amazing. And
sounds heavy.
Yeah, no, you should read it. It's great. It's so good. And it just, for me, it perfectly captures the spirit of the Silver Surfer. And this is exactly what I want from Silver Surfer stories. It's like this bittersweet, beautiful book. Like the artist at the back of the book, there's like a bit of a little bit of a sort of like I want to call it an outro / blurb by the artist, and there's a bit of writing from the writer there too for the book, and they talk about the artist talks about how he has dedicated to an artist called Mobius. Now, Mobius worked with Stan Lee in the 80s on a 2-parter called Silver Surfer Parable. Well, it was later collected as Silver Surfer Parable. It wasn't actually that until it was collected. It was just a 2-part mini-series. Scripted by Lee and drawn by Mobius. And when you look at the artwork compared to the artwork to Mobius's artwork in the books, you can see the direct influence, and it's a fitting tribute. It really is, because it's amazing and it just looks so gorgeous. Also, it helps that the colorist is a certain Chris O'Halloran.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you may know his name from such books as Ice Cream Man. But yeah, and it just works so well, and he's coloured it so well. It's like it's vibrant, and at the same time, it just looks so natural. Just like fizzing across the pages. It's great. I'm just flicking through it now as I'm talking to you. And yeah, I love this start to finish. Yeah, it's just a really, really cool book, and if it is meant as a tribute to Mobius, then it's a really fitting one, because the artwork's great. 100%. So the creative team behind that one, we've got Ethan Sachs as the writer, Andre Lima Arujo is the artist, Chris O'Halloran, colorist, VC's Travis Lanham on letters, Nick Russell on production, Philip Tan and Marta Gracia are cover artists, and Marcus Martin does a variant cover for it. And yeah, it's amazing. It's just got this beautiful, fine, considered quality about it where the artwork's concerned, and the writing is great as well, because it's this tragic tale of the Silver Surfer. Like, I was
going to say, those are my favourite Silver Surfer tales, where it's the tragedy of his being and like how he has to serve this master. And...
Well, yeah, that's what I meant when I said it perfectly captures the Silver Surfer. It's yeah, that's what the Silver Surfer is.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I think I'm going to have to pick this one.
Yeah, and that is the Silver Surfer Annual #1, and that was out last week. Ray, I believe the next one is yours. It's time to find out what you've been doing.
Yeah, I didn't find much time to read comics this week, but one of the few that I did get through was called Cover, and I picked it out because I liked its cover. So I don't know if, without getting too deep into that, but yeah, so it's called Cover, created by Brian Michael Bendis and David Mack, digital colouring by Zu Orzu, letters by Carlos Mangual, and design by Curtis King Jr. I'm not entirely sure what design means. Maybe it's just like an overseeing the, I don't know, the whole style of the thing, but I'm going to have to look deeper into what design specifically means. Maybe it's the cover, because sometimes I've noticed with some comics they say logo designed by, or, cover designed by. But anyway, I was grabbed by the cover of this, and to describe the cover of Cover, there's a lot going on. So there's the silhouette of a man holding his finger up to his mouth in like a shush gesture. And then this silhouette is split up into portions as though it's like overlaid onto a window lattice, like a window frame. And then within the man's silhouette, as though within the panes of the top 3/4 of the window, is a watercolor painting of a red-lipped woman staring out from the page. And then finally, at the bottom left corner of the window is some some type of fictional legalese or, some sort of document where most of the text has been redacted, like, when they have black marker that goes over the words to censor stuff, except for the names Brian Michael Bendis and David Mack. And it's really cool. It really grabbed me from the get-go. And then when you open it up, the first page really is really jarring. It's so in such contrast to the cover. It's really stark. So immediately there's not many words, and there's like oodles of this gorgeous, shifting, diluted artwork. And almost the entirety of this book, at least for the first couple of pages, is in these pastel blue tones. So what this book is about, it's about an artist who is at Comic-Con, Max Field. He's selling his artwork, and an excitable fan, as she puts it, I'm not a casual fan, with deep pockets, buys out all of his artwork, like literally thousands of dollars for a few pieces of his art. And he's dumbfounded by the fact that somebody has, done what is considered a Comic-Con miracle. And he tries to offer her a discount, and she refuses. Like, he's just loaded with all this money that she throws at him for his art. And then going from there, the style shifts 100%. It switches to this like Japanese or possibly Chinese. I think in Japanese it's called sumi-e style, or like an ink wash style. So where if you can imagine like the giant paintbrushes and the really delicate swirls where it's like dipped in black ink and you see it like drawn onto the page. It's basically an in-universe comic that our protagonist Max Field has come up with, called Ninja Sword Odyssey. And in it, he's drawing or writing about a young boy who narrates about how his father came home after many battles, having lost his job, and taught him the ways of the sword. And then it's here that the art begins to edge towards kind of like avant-garde or, just surreal in some ways, where the window frame structure that was on the cover kind of starts to bleed into the artwork again, makes another appearance, and the edges of the frame forms the outline of our writer who was in the previous frame, almost like he's incorporated himself or he's manifesting in the work that he's creating in that moment. And it's like this really effective way of showing how he's lost and absorbed in his own painting or craft. And then within that story, we see the child expressing regrets to his father, but his image, the child's image, is within this silhouette framework of Max that's outlining the work that he's doing. And these panels, they begin to fill the previously like blue and white monochrome world with splashes of color and radiance. And then as the kid is asking his father why he left, Max's actual father turns up asking for money. And we're brought crashing down back into the black and blue and white tones of Max's reality. It's really cool. It's a really interesting way of like flipping between these two like flights of fancy being drawn into your own craft. So then from there we flip back to him being on stage at a Comic-Con panel, explaining how lonely it is to be a comic book artist, and telling anecdotes of the weirdest things that he had to sign at a convention. And then after the talk, the woman who bought his paintings previously approaches him again, and we realize that a month has passed since she previously bought his artwork, and she wants to do the same again, and also take him out to dinner. And then as she does this, we see the page like blossom with color. The background remains the same, like kind of like architect's blue as it was before, but becomes less drab and with all the character that watercolor brings to the page. And so we see them at dinner, and she basically reveals that she's an analyst for the CIA, Langley. She's a spy, in fact, and she's been watching Max intently. And as she said, she's not a casual fan. Now, I'm not going to say much more because I'm worried about spoiling from this point onwards, but the charm and the tension in this comic just keeps shifting gears, and like the artwork follows as these gears change. Like, for example, immediately after this, the dinner conversation, as it slowly gets more tense, the color and style of the art becomes more rigid and sparse, and it gives me that that sinking feeling you get when you hear bad news and like the sound in the world suddenly drops out. I felt like it was a pictorial representation of that like gut-wrenching feeling. And like, I'm such a sucker for good color work. Like, the colors in this are exceptional. I mean, I love watercolors generally, especially ones which are vibrant, because it's hard. I feel like I feel like the first thing you think of with watercolors isn't vibrancy. You think of like washed out, pastel-y, like calming colors. But this one, it has like it doesn't dive into neon, but it wallows like really luxuriously in these romantic, bold pinks and purples and yellows in like one particularly memorable scene before again crashing back down into these blueprint tones of his everyday life.
Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say there's a comic that when you talk about watercolors comes to mind. It's one that I have talked about on here previously called Underwinter.
Okay.
By Ray Fawkes. I don't know if you ever checked that out after I talked about it.
I'm not sure I have. No.
But that is entirely on watercolors. Cool. And it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that this one switches between the two and then like blends them all in, and there's some theme going on because it relates back to the artwork that's happening in universe.
Yeah.
And aside from all of this, because I'm trying not to give away too much about where the plot goes, but I feel like there must be some level of autobiography to this because it's written by comic book writers and artists, and it's a story about being a comic book writer and artist and how lonely it is and how just the low expectations I guess you have, and like the fictionalized romance you have of being an artist who has all these fans, but you still have to eat, and his peers are really jealous of the fact that this woman has dropped all this cash on his artwork, and it's interesting. I want to see more of this thing. Like I like stories that are about writers by writers, sometimes like, especially when they're done right, because sometimes it can be a bit draining, or like it wallows too much in it. But this, I feel like I want to see what touches of, I don't know, like just the sadness that comes with following your dreams, maybe. I don't know. I feel like there's going to be a part of that, because what this is it's a I feel like it's an adventure story, because it's him being taken out of his, he enjoys what he does, but he's being taken out of the mundanity of his work and being whisked away on this adventure. And I'm just looking forward to seeing more of it. So yeah, that's called Cover, and that's in shops now. Number 1.
Awesome. You should check that out. Did you give us the creative team?
I did, right at the top. Yeah, I can go through it again. It's basically Brian Michael Bendis and David Mack are the main creators of this.
Yeah. Is this part of the Brian Michael Bendis' own imprint thing?
I'm not sure. There's a mention of something called Jinx World.
Yes, it is then. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be on that point, towards the end of this comic, there's some more really bloody gorgeous like watercolor work. There's a Superman 1 variant cover which I just adore. Like it's so cool. With you don't see any of the features, but obviously Superman is an iconic figure just from his silhouette, from his hair, and obviously from the logo on his chest. You know who he is, and he's the backdrop behind him is like these splashes of blue and orange and red. And it's just it's so cool.
That sounds really awesome.
Yeah, I think there's a Batman one I think you'd really love, where it's the silhouettes of Selina and Bruce. Catwoman and Batman.
You can call them Selina and Bruce,
but they're in their costumes. Like it's Batman's silhouette and it's Catwoman's silhouette.
I'm on first name terms with these guys, dude. It's fine.
Well, you've been to their weddings, so, But it's basically relating to the wedding storyline, because it's their silhouette, and inside their silhouette you see Joker's face in like really creepy watercolor, and like scratched in around the silhouettes is, "You are cordially invited on this day to this ceremony to bear witness to this pledge of love," and then scrawled over the faces is like "happily ever after and forever." I'll have to send you this. It looks amazing.
Yeah, send me that.
And that's by David Mack, I believe, because it's got his stamp at the bottom right corner.
Yeah, that sounds cool. So that was cover number 1, and that brings me on to something a little bit left of field for me. Well, not left of field, but it came out of the left of field for me anyway, because I mean, I don't really read as much Japanese comics as I should, and I stumbled across something called Batmanga, which are the Batman comics published in Japan by Jiro Kuwata. And these are an entirely separate thing. Something that came out of a craze, a Batman craze in Japan, born in the 1960s, after the old Adam West Batman TV show. That was shipped over to Japan, and the Japanese loved it, and there was a huge craze for Batman out of that. And a Japanese magazine publisher, they Shonen King, I believe they were called, went to DC and struck a deal with DC for the rights to make their own Batman comics. And thus we have these completely separate, completely unique Japanese Batman comics from the 1960s, which are absolutely brilliant. And they were kind of like a hidden thing for such a long time. Like, not a lot of people in the West knew of their existence, and it was something that it is something that is unique to Japan, uniquely Japanese Batman comics that have no bearing, or how do I say it? They've got no bearing, or I can't find the word I want. I want to say effect, but I don't think it's effect.
Or they're not necessly related.
Yes,
to
that's it. No bearing or relation to the Western Batman stories. Yes, that's it. They're completely in their own bubble, and they're really, really good. And I've been reading through them because they've got. There's 3 volumes, 3 chunky manga volumes, that collect the whole thing unabridged. So in 1966, they fell in love with the sort of like outlandish and light-hearted Adam West Batman series, and they kind of took that and took some elements of Japanese superhero design and storytelling and some influence from the Batman comics of the time, and all of these ingredients kind of like came together to create something completely unique, which are these Batmanga books. And it's really good because I can see like the silliness and the outlandishness of the Adam West Batman in there. I can see like Japanese, like, like Kamen Rider, that type of stuff. That kind of influence in there as well. I can see the influence taken from the Batman comics, and it's something, it just comes together to be really cool. And it's this like really nice sort of like classic Japanese manga art. The stories themselves are really good, really really thrilling, like adventure stories with some like really sort of like silly Batman 66 twists. Things that you can fully imagine happening on the screen to Adam West, like there's like a whole point in one of the stories where they decide to go to Jamaica to forget about everything that's happened, but they can't forget about it even in Jamaica, and Batman still has nightmares or something, I don't know. And it's just
what?
It's like, yeah, exactly, yeah. It's this like they have unique villains as well. They have their own unique villains in this. Like the villains are, I think, save for one, who is kind of like a riff on something that appeared in a US Batman book. All of them are pretty much unique to this manga, and it's brilliant. It's like this classic manga that's just absolutely, it's just absolutely fantastic.
Like, I'm scrolling through some Google images for this, like just Googling Batmanga and seeing what comes up.
Yeah.
And it does have that thing that I really like about Japanese manga, where I feel like it's the antithesis of what you normally find in Western Batman comics, because they're so, they dive so deep into that brooding, dark, like dense, like misery of Gotham City. Whereas in the manga, because it's black and white and because it's, printed generally the idea is that it's printed cheaply onto paper initially. Like, it has that really bold, easy to read.
Yeah.
That readability you get from manga where it's mostly action oriented.
Yeah.
Just seeing that, like, there's a page I found where it's Batman and Robin, like, descending down a building by grabbing onto the poles that
and swinging off flagpoles. Yeah,
swinging off flagpoles, and it's so kinetic, and it has that amazing manga like anime feel that I love.
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen these lying around, and I've just never got round to.
Oh no, they're great, and there's like a whole reference book about the craze in Japan that was written and published here, which is what gave way to these finally being published in full.
Oh, okay.
Because there's excerpts of the manga in this book, and it's just, I need to get this book really because I need to understand more about it because I would just love to know.
Do you know what the book is called?
The book is literally called Batmanga: The Secret History of Batman in Japan.
Okay, cool.
And it was published in 2008. And it was designed by a fella called Chip Kidd with the assistance of photographer Jeff Spear.
Okay.
And it's got the shonen manga adaptation of Batman in, which is what I'm talking about here, plus like, you know, some referencey stuff about it, like all kinds of things to do with like the memorabilia and everything else, and like, and it's incredible because this manga was only printed for a year. You know, it was printed between 66 and 67, and it was never compiled into volume format.
Oh wow! Okay.
So yeah, it's just like this Batman phenomenon in Japan, and gave way to these truly unique Batman comics that really are something special. And like you're saying, yeah, it's got this lightheartedness about it because it is based on the Batman 66 stuff, and it's completely unique because it has the Japanese superhero template pasted over it, where it's got that kind of like I mean, obviously it's very Batman still because Batman doesn't have powers, he has gadgets and things, and it's obviously heavily influenced by Batman 66, but it's got that whole how do I put it, the sort of the optimism and grandioseness of Japanese superhero stuff. Like, and you've got like, to mention a few of the things, like you said, there's that page where they swing down the flagpoles, and like I said, they go to Jamaica on holiday. There's a bit where there's a guy who is he's one of the villains in the manga, Dr. Faceless, I believe he's called. He's like, his face is all scarred up and kind of missing, like, and he goes on a rampage through the city trying to destroy everything that has a face. Like, as he says in the book, you know, not even clock faces are safe. You know, he has to destroy clock faces as well. And in you know, like Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
There's a mountain in Gotham with a big Batman head carved into it.
Of course there is.
Yeah. You know, it's just like that kind of stuff. Just everything, right. You know. And it's just so cool and so unique, and I've just been loving it because I've just been loving reading these nice light-hearted adventure stories featuring Batman.
I love the idea that even watch faces aren't safe. That's brilliant.
Even clock faces aren't safe. Yeah. It's great. He's like, he has to destroy everything that's got a face, but there's like a really cool twist in that one. So that's cool.
Okay.
And yeah, that's the really good thing about it as well. It keeps, like, you know how most Batman stories have these like really epic twists. Where there's like really cool twists to them sometimes. Like, this has the really cool twists. So yeah, and it's it's brilliant, and it's a nice little look at, or a nice little time capsule, I guess, for a period in time in Japan. This Japanese Batman craze, and I believe this pretty much encapsulates everything around that, and is the sort of like the one thing that came out of it that will now sit on the shelves of history as a thing that is completely unique. And it's interesting to read this and to try and understand where this came from, and to see Batman through such a unique lens. You know, like to have like something that you already have an established idea of turned on its head.
Yeah, seeing how somebody else takes it and treats it.
Yeah, because like I said, these are completely produced within a bubble almost. Like, all they had to go on was Batman 66, and obviously, you know, maybe they had some some airing of what Batman, like from other Batman comics, and because I can see there's a little bit of influence in there of what Batman should be and everything else, but it still manages to be something entirely new. It's great. So yeah, that is the Batmanga, which are, well, the original Japanese title is just simply Batman, and written and illustrated by Jiro Kuwata. So yeah, check those out. There's 3 volumes available, and they're all really good and really fun. And I guess that brings us on to our final comic, doesn't it?
Yeah, something we both read.
Yep.
I read on your recommendation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is a new book published by Vertigo called Vertigo, called Border Town, which came out last week, which was Wednesday the 5th of September. And now this one deals with issues like a hot issue at the moment in with the hot issue of immigration, and of particularly immigration surrounding the Mexican American border, which we've talked about a little bit previously with that Brian K. Vaughan book, yeah,
which was called Border.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And this kind of centers around a similar central theme, I guess. Sort
of. I don't think it handled it quite as deftly.
No, it doesn't handle it as deftly. It's like if the Brian K. Vaughan book was a blunt instrument.
Yeah.
A heavy blunt instrument. Yeah.
It's a good way to put it. It's as if it was as if the Brian K. Vaughan book was less a book and really, really comic-y.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really comic-y book comic.
Yeah. And that's not a bad thing, by the way, guys. Because...
not inherently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm not... Yeah, because we like stuff to be comic-y. But this, I mean, it's great, but it's not without... It doesn't come without its hang-ups, I guess.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so it's kind of... book opens and you've got this kid who is...
Well, can I interrupt? Before we get into what the plot's about, do you want to describe the cover? Because before I'd read any content, I was sold on this book just on the fact that it's I don't know how to describe it. It's a... do you
want me to describe it in one word?
Well, it's like a teen drama DVD cover. Yeah. It's kind of like The Breakfast Club if there was also a huge guy wearing a luchador mask and a mutant gremlin in the middle. Like, it's really cool. It's got, like, the archetypes of, the girl sat down with her hands tucked around her knees, and, like, the dude with a skateboard, but, in the middle of the desert with an alien in the middle.
Yeah. Well, he's not an alien.
Super sold.
It's a super cobra. But, yeah, do you know what came to mind for me as soon as I saw this cover?
Yeah.
Do you remember an old cartoon called Recess?
Oh yeah, Recess. Like grown-up, grimdark, vibrant Recess. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
TJ Detweiler with his skateboard.
Yeah, I can see it. Right, just dishing out lessons. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I know it felt like Recess. I don't know. I just looked at it and then I just went, "Is this Recess?" kind of thing. Just like in my head, I was like, "What?" But yeah, no. So that I don't know why that came to mind. It just did. I think it's just like the group of kids and one of them's really big.
Yeah, I think it might just be that. Like multicultural cast of kids who are like staring out at the screen, and one of them's huge and one of them's a goblin. Sorry, chupacabra.
Yeah, but yeah. So, and I think your comment was when I showed you the cover was, did someone just base a comic cover on Polaroids of your attic or what?
Yeah, I mean that's immediately what I thought. I thought this is the Greggiest book I've Gregged in a Greg while.
Because I do own a luchador mask.
Of course, yeah. I mean, you own more than one. Don't lie.
I've only got one. I've only got one luchador mask. I think.
Do you have a bum bag, or sorry, a fanny pack, as our American friends would call it?
No, I don't.
No.
Maybe I should get one though.
I think you should.
I think. You know what? I think I've actually got the stuff to potentially do a kind of like budgety cosplay of that.
No, you would just be dressing as yourself, Greg.
Well, I don't usually wear socks and sandals, but the shorts and the t-shirt and the luchador mask, that's me.
It's you from the waist up. Let's say that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be like a miniature version of him, but yeah.
Now you can talk about the comic. Proceed.
Yeah, now I can talk about the comic. Okay. So when you get past this amazing cover, this bright orange, vibrant cover with this kind of like hyper detailed artwork on it that's really cool. It kind of feels a little bit old school when I look at it. And you see the Vertigo label on it, and you're like, yeah, Vertigo, woo, Vertigo. And then you open it up, and you're like, oh, Vertigo. Because the book opens, and we've got some dudes on a border patrol. They're the MAGA types, I guess is the easiest way to put it. And they're handing out weapons and getting each other worked up, ready to do something horrible under the cover of darkness on the Mexican-American border.
I mean, just to point out, they are literally the MAGA types, because one of them yells, make America great again, motherfucker, while firing into the air.
Don't tread
with their
on
mission... Yeah, don't tread on me on his t-shirt. And like
very clanny looking don't tread on me t-shirt.
Unbelievably, yeah.
Yeah.
And with their goal explicitly to keep out the illegals, right? Because they make this comment.
Yeah, about keeping out illegals and make America great again, motherfucker, which is actually one of the things in a speech bubble in this book. Mm-hmm. And you can actually see on this dude's jacket, the dude wearing the very clanny don't tread on me t-shirt, he's got like a little badge with a Pepe on it. I don't know if you noticed.
Oh my god! Yeah, I just saw it.
Yeah.
So
wonderful. these guys are scumbags. And as we go through the book, next page we've got a Mexican family trying to make their way across the border safely, and I think that's where things start to go a bit sideways, because all of a sudden these guys turn up in their truck, and before they can do something terrible has already happened, and this is at the hands of this beast, this chupacabra thing that appears to feed off the fears and bring those fears to life, the fears of the people, and bring them to life. And all of a sudden, the same. They basically meet their end as well. The bad guy, these scum of the earth types from the front of the book. Cue like an early morning kind of sunrisey type thing going on, and we've got a young guy with his mother and his mother's long distance boyfriend making their way in a U-Haul to their new home. Now he's obviously not very keen on the idea of this happening, and there's something I picked on. Something weird happens with the radio when the radio is turned on in the car. But that's kind of like brushed aside but it like his eyes go black and stuff, and some weird message comes out of the radio, some kind of weird frequency or something that obviously we're going to learn more about that if we as you carry on through the issues of this book. And it causes him to spontaneously bleed, and that is brushed aside as a side effect of the climate, because they're going to a place called Devil's Fork, which I believe is in Arizona.
Yes. Yeah, because they're moving to a border town in Arizona. Yeah.
Yes. And we've got these two kind of like wolf ball creatures picking on the corpse of the young girl that was killed on the previous page. And that's the story. So he's like the new kid in town. He turns up at high school, and he meets this kind of motley crew that we see on the front cover here, including this big dude in a luchador mask, who is kind of like this really cool Gentle Giant type character. Actually, I like him.
Yeah, Gentle Giant is a good way to put it.
Yeah. And there's some more kind of like blunt instrument coming in here, because we also get to meet the local Nazi kids.
Yeah, your friendly local Nazi.
Local Nazi punk kid. Yeah.
Yeah. comes and fist bumps you on your first day because you're white.
And he obviously didn't realise he was a Nazi. And then later on in the book, they get into a fight. And it's just, this is what's happening so far. But at the same time, in the background, while all this is happening, while we've got all this like tension going on with being on the border and everything that comes with that, the fear, the racism, all these tensions that come with living on a border town. We've got something else going on in the background, some kind of supernatural threat. This chupacabra creature from before has been making its way around town, claiming victims by becoming their worst fear. And this is actually a really cool page. I like this page, where it shows you the various forms that this creature takes, specifically one of the bottom panels where he turns into Bane. With Pino Jiro written on his knuckles, and takes out a kid who's a Batman fan, basically, who was reading Nightfall. Because I noticed that on the cover of the book, it's a Nightfall book.
Well, that splash page, it lays down the theme of the entire book, because the narration over it is old wounds reopened, and it's showing the monster as a border patrol and like modern day racism, and then ancient threats returned, and it's, it shows him dressed as a tiki torch Nazi, which I thought was an interesting, ancient threat returned is an interesting way to put that. Obscuring their true form, and it's like a hooded teen, and then a woman with clutching her pearls saying, "Ah, look out, it's a hooded teen." And then your greatest fear, Bane, to a Batman kid, Batman fan kid, and some of it hits really well, and some of it just completely misses the mark, I feel. Especially the stuff like equating... I guess it's showing everybody's individual greatest fears, and to show that one person's greatest fear is a tiki torch Nazi, and another woman's fear is a hooded teenager, is just... I get... Reassessing it right in this moment, I actually like that a lot more than I did the first time round.
Yeah, same, yeah. The second read it's better than... Because the first read, it comes off really, like... in your face, and really sort of too in your face, like so in your face that it misses the point for trying to be in your face.
Or it's so in your face that it's almost like it's equating all four of those things as being as equal threats, but they're clearly not. But I guess on second read it is trying to make a point about that. Yeah.
And an old wound has been reopened. The progression there from border patrol to tiki torch Nazi. To teenager, kind of like an old wound has been reopened, letting loose an ancient threat upon the modern world. Like, it's not an ancient threat, it's something that's been there in the background the whole time, it's just got balls again. But that's kind of like, I can kind of see what it was trying to go for there. Like the progression of letting something in and then it metastasizes or whatever. But I don't know if you can understand where I'm trying to come from with that. And we've got so like the story sort of progresses this way, and we're kind of like the supernatural element is kind of like alluded to more and more and more and more, and this whole thing comes to a head at the end of the book, and we are treated to a view of the supernatural world, the Aztec underworld, which I thought was really cool. Now, there's some... I mean, like, as far as the story goes, like when we were saying here, it's supernatural and it's, like, really topical and contemporary. It tries, I think, sometimes... I think in places in the book, like I've already said, it's trying too hard. In trying to plumb for shock value, I guess, or to be in your face, it's a little too in your face and ends up missing the point, I guess, is what we're trying to get at here. Is that right, Ray?
Yeah, there's that, and it's also, I'm going to use one of Leon's favourite words. Like, it's trying really hard to be didactic. It's trying, like, there's one scene where this kid, our protagonist, is on his first day at school, and, he's had this encounter with a Nazi that he didn't realise, he shouldn't befriend, and he clearly doesn't have those leanings. The first thing, when these two girls come up to and ask him, are you this type? Are you a Nazi? And he's like, of course not. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And like they turn to him and say, prove you're not a racist. And then we have a whole full page of him saying, well, you know, here's this thing that I do. Here's this Japanese thing that I enjoy. Here's this Indian thing I enjoy.
Yeah.
Here's this black thing I enjoy. Oh, and I'm half Mexican. And like, it's trying to have its cake and eat it, because it's him saying, just because I'm passing as white doesn't mean, you know, like, and I'm half Mexican, and he shouts it to the school. And in the corner of the panel, we have one of the girls that he was talking to saying, oh my fucking God. Like, you know, it's trying to express this thing, but also deride the fact that he's, you know, shouting it out as though it's a badge, you know? And like it has this whole commentary where it's like, it's almost like time stops. And you can ignore the rest of the classroom, and he's talking, you know, they're having this dialogue with this girl that he's talking to, and she points out, no, you're not half Mexican. You're not half Mexican, you're not half Irish, because that makes you sound like you're the world's shittiest centaur. You're Mexican, and you're Irish, and you're American, and you're all three fully, and all three simultaneously, 300%. And, like, it's a cool sentiment, but I feel like it's so on the nose that it's almost taking the piss out of it. Like, that's the feeling I got reading it. As someone who can, you know, semi-relate to the concept that it's trying to get across, like, there's more subtle ways, or there's more interesting or less, I don't know, there's ways that you could do this where you can't have the wrong person take it and run with it in the wrong direction, and that's the thing that I don't like about this. I feel like it's too far down the middle, even though it's clearly decrying, you know, bigotry. And I just don't know. I don't know if I can enjoy it because of that.
Yeah, it's got a you know, it the heart of the message is really good, and it's all there. It just does it.
Well, I don't know if the heart of the message is that great, because it's showing that this kid who, you know, is wrongly assumed to be on the wrong side, you know, because he's almost immediately befriended by these Nazis, and he tells them to you know, to back off, and his way of dealing with it is violence, and, you know, he beats the shit out of this Nazi, and there's all these things where I don't see him as an aspirational figure, and maybe I'm not supposed to, maybe I'm reading too much of the wrong things, but I personally don't need this story in my life in some ways, you know. I don't need to see the violent reaction to this stuff, or maybe just not presented in this way by this aggressive teenager. Like, I just don't want that. I
can understand, because it's quite an aggressive book,
super aggressive.
I
can reveling in its violence.
I can understand why for some people looking at that might be catharsis. I don't know. Yeah,
maybe. I guess I'm just not the target audience for this, because I'm not getting that, like, fist pumping. And then also the fact that maybe I'm reading too much into this, but, like, you know, death of the author or whatever, but the fact that it's equating the chupacabra who's, you know, sneaking back beyond its own mystical borders, to either to find safety or to find nourishment or to escape like some tragedy that's happening in its hometown or in its home environment, and you know, making the parallels between that and actual people who are going through actual tragedies. And at the start of the book, these people are the ones we first see eviscerated. Like, it's just too, I feel like it's too much, and it's almost enjoying that violence too much while trying to show, you know, putting your face and saying, here, look at this, you know. I just don't like that presentation of that story.
That's what I meant when I said in going for shock value, it loses its way and loses its point. And
it's a shame, because I really like some things. Like, I really like the artwork. Aside from all the gore, like the style of it is really interesting, and like all the colors. Like, it has the Arizona sunset thing a lot. You know, it feels like you're in a dust bowl a lot of the time.
I love the artwork. The colors are fantastic. The artwork's like this hyper detailed, like fine lines and stuff, and everything's really considered and spot on as far as the artwork is concerned, and so just some really cool panels in there.
It does have that like organic, like naturalistic line work everywhere, you know, where you can see the like the creases in people's clothing, but it's not done in a way to show you the shape of anything. It's showing like just the general imperfection of the world, and like nothing's straight, nothing is rigid or geometric.
That's what I like. Everything is imperfect in that way, and it's great. Like even down to like there's a good panel actually that sort of like shows a close up of an old woman's face.
Yeah,
and that's really cool with all the lines in her face and stuff when you see that. And there's some towards the end of the book actually when we get to see the Aztec underworld, I think is where it really shines, because that's when it gets really colourful and really cool. Yeah,
the colours in that are trippy. Yeah. I like the effused light and everything that comes through from that, and just the monster design in general is pretty cool as well.
Yeah. I think there's some really cool moments in it. I just think that for trying to be in your face, it loses its point, and it's got some really cool bright neon colours going on. It's even like some of the letterwork's really good. Like
I like some of the onomatopoeia is really good.
Yeah,
like there's wham with the Spanish exclamation marks where it's one's upside down and one's the normal the way up that we see it.
Yeah, and it's just some of it's really great in that way, but I think it gets lost in its own desire to shock, I guess. And that's where it loses what could have been something great and a really great message. It could have been instead of being such a blunt instrument, if it had been honed a little more, I think this could have been so much better than it is. I mean,
I think I can agree with you. I think it's the like you said, the blunt instrument, the way that it's given, the way that it's provided, and it just like smacks you on the head with it. If it had led into it and it was more of like this tragic tale, I think I would be on board. But then maybe that's just my sensibility.
I mean, I can get where it's coming from, and I get that it's probably if I was the age of the kids in this book, I might be able to buy into the fury a bit more. I think maybe now I'm older and wiser. I mean, obviously, I still agree with the core message of it that,
punch a Nazi.
Exactly. But
fair enough.
But I agree with. I'm not. I can't buy into the fury and the anger anymore like I could have done when I was a teenager. I mean, I guess I can still get furious and angry about racism and things like that, and I still hate that stuff. I still agree with the core message. I just can't buy into this book in the same way that I would have done, I guess. I think is what I'm trying to say.
If I'm divorcing myself from how I personally feel about its presentation, I do like the idea of showing a story about a kid who is sick of being misrepresented as an ally to bad people.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to see where that goes. I want to see how he develops, because hopefully it's just a thing where in issue 1 we see him as an angry teenager who's been ripped away from his home and he just wants to punch the shit out of something. And like how I'm hoping, assuming the best faith in something, I'm hoping that this book will go in a direction where it's him learning to deal with that and what it means for him to be passing as one thing, but really, having these quite a strong moral center.
Yeah. No, I like it, and I like this. I do, at the end of the day, do want to read number 2 still.
I will be picking this up as a volume. I'm not going to be picking up the individual issues, I think.
Yeah. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, it's just a shame that it does miss the mark in such a way by being too blunt and too in your face. But yeah, otherwise it's great. The artwork's fantastic and everything else about it's fine. It's fantastic. But that was Border Town number 1, and that is Vertigo Comics, Vertigo through DC.
And so the story is by Eric M. Esquivel. Art is by Ramon Villalobos. Colours are by Tamra Bonvillain.
Yep.
Lettering by Darren Bennett. Variant cover by Jorge Jimenez, I believe.
Yep.
Logo design, see, this is what I was talking about earlier. Logo design, Nessim Higson.
Yep.
And then the editors, Andy Curry and Maggie Howell.
Yeah. Logo design. And it is a cool logo, I must say.
It's a very cool logo. Yeah.
Very cool logo. But yeah, it's just a shame because it could have been so much cooler. and we, but I mean, I still enjoyed it, and I get it, but at the same time, I just don't. I think I just don't. Yeah,
I'm going to assume the best intentions and see where it goes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do as well. So that was Border Town number 1, and that brings us to the end of our comics for this week. And I guess it's pull list time. Is that right, Ray?
It is, yeah. So what are you planning on reading for the next few weeks?
So I've got a few things that I've just kind of like picked off from the next 2 weeks of comics, that are things that I'm kind of looking a little bit forward to. I say a little bit forward to, a lot forward to. So, I mean, this week we're going to start with... there's only one this week that I've kind of picked up that's new, that's not something that's one of my regular pulls. And that is Mystery Science Theater 3000, the comic. Oh, cool. Yeah, so... Okay. Mystery Science Theater, right? This whole thing where they riff on old films and whatever. Well, it's coming to comics, and that could be something quite interesting, actually.
Wait, are they taking like public domain comics and then commenting over them?
Exactly
like the way
that.
They do with...
Exactly.
Seriously?
That. Yeah.
That's a cool idea. Okay.
Yeah. So that is exactly why I'm interested in it. So it's Mystery Science Theater, but comics. So King of Forrester pairs her King of Chrome liquid medium with her latest invention, the Bubula R. Jonah Heston, Crow, T-Robot, and Tom Servo find themselves thrust into the 2D world of public domain comics with riffing as their only defense. So how do you like that?
That sounds pretty cool to me. Even though, unlike the cinema stuff where I like schlocky old movies, I'm not so sure I like schlocky old comics, but I'll give this a go.
Well, we'll see. I like schlocky old comics, so we'll see. But yeah, so we've got a creative team of Harold Burcholtz, Matt McGuinness, Seth Robinson, Wes Dizioba, Todd Nook, Joe Hodgson, Mary Robinson, Cheryl Vope, Mike Manley, and Steve Vance, who does a variant cover. So that's like a plethora of writers and artists. I'm assuming some of those might be the original writers and artists of the public domain comics that they use.
Okay, yeah.
Because I'm not sure. Yeah, because I think what they do is they sort of like add themselves into the public domain books, like edit it in kind of thing, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, this is an interesting experiment, I guess, and I want to see it. So yeah, Mystery Science Theater 3000. So I lied actually when I said that the only thing that I picked off my list to talk about was that, because there's actually Scales and Scoundrels number 12 as well, which is going to be the last one. It's going to be the last one.
Book.
I know, and I'm
break
so
your heart.
I'm so heartbroken that it's ending. I've been pretty vocal on Twitter about how heartbroken I was when it got announced that it was ending. 12 issues. And
it had a good run.
Yeah, but it's... I mean, I understand that they had to end it, that they had to... they got to do what they got to do. And, I respect their decision to kind of like... Because they call it an ending, but I'm not sure if it's an ending and more of a hiatus. I don't know. Oh, okay. From the way that I've seen Sebastian Gerner talking on Twitter about what's going on with it. They hope to bring it back at some point in the future, I think is the idea.
I mean, that happens a lot in comics.
So for now, it's an ending for now of one of the best comics of the past year. And that is Scales and Scoundrels. And this is something that when I first picked it up, I grabbed it on a whim last year, and was instantly spellbound by the beautiful artwork and these wonderful Dungeons and Dragons-y adventure stories. And I've just loved every second of it, like every second of it. Every single panel, every line in this book. I gush about how much I love it. But anyway, it's the last one. So I will certainly be picking that up. And it's a really somber cover as well, because it's kind of like this pitch black cover, apart from this stone statue of one of the characters sitting in the middle of it, and then the logo, Scales and Scoundrels, underneath. It's... You've got to hold back the tears, Greg, because if you cry on it...
I was going to say, you okay, Greg?
You'll ruin the comic. It's just... Yeah.
Yeah, don't cry onto your comic.
Yeah.
I mean, similarly, for the same week, I've got one, which is Mech Cadet U number 12, which is also an ending after 12 issues. Although I don't think I'm that sad about it. I think I like endings more than you do. I'm looking forward to this not dragging on. I want to see a conclusion to a story and, to all these characters that I really like. I haven't caught up with the last few Mech Cadets, so yeah, I think it's going to be good. I'm going to get to binge the last few and then actually have an ending instead of, having...
endings are a bittersweet thing for me. Because, I mean, especially with this, because I know that it's kind of premature and was probably meant to carry on longer.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
But at the same time, on the 12th, there's another comic coming out that I thought you'd be all over, which is Star Trek versus Transformers. Right?
Now, I saw that. I did see it. I think if I was more into Star Trek, I'd probably be picking that up.
That's not the way you reacted when I first told you about that comic. you were like, piss off, I don't want that.
I wasn't quite that bad. Maybe I've gotten more cynical, because I used to like these kind of things a lot more than I do now. I think I've just gotten jaded with it. But
it's definitely something you pick up in volume and just flick through to see if it's your thing. You don't pick it up from the start.
I can be. I mean,
if you're not a fan of both properties, you don't pick it up from the start.
I've picked up previous IDW crossover stuff, and it's been really fun. I just don't see myself picking this one up. I think it's because I'm not invested in Star Trek in any way.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. Otherwise, it looks quite cool. The artwork looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, I love Transformers. I'm just not invested enough in Star Trek for that to be worthwhile for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, if it was Transformers TMNT, I'd be all over that.
You've been all over that.
Yeah, but yeah. What were you going to ask me? You were going to ask me a question.
No, if you had anything else for the 12th.
No, that's it. Just those two are the two that I picked out from my pull list.
Okay, well, aside from Mech Cadet U, my pick would have been Cemetery Beach, which is a new Warren Ellis book. Warren Ellis of Transmetropolitan, and actually, I don't think I've read anything else of his, but I know that Transmetropolitan is really good. So I'm curious to see what this does. I don't really know much about it, apart from the cover. It looks really cool. Black and white and a splash of red, and it's like two people running away from what looks like a really creepy mansion. So, yeah.
And that will bring us on to the following week, unless you've got anything else you want to come up with.
No, I mean, I think I mentioned something called Viewotron, the other episode, or the other cast we recorded.
Yeah.
I don't think it came out yet, but I think it might be coming out on the 12th now, so there's that.
Cool. So we've got, on the 19th, which is like the following week now, which is also Thought Bubble Week, and we'll come to that in a moment. But we've got a book called Batman Damned, which is the first of the DC Black Label stuff. And I think DC Black Label is like DC Dark, basically. The easiest way to describe it, it's DC printing stuff that they probably wouldn't normally be able to get away with in their normal runs with these characters. Basically, it's kind of like more violent, more visceral, more. I think it's supposed to be that's literally it's supposed to be more violent and a bit more like adult. Is probably the best way to put it. So this. We'll read the blurb for it. So, the Joker is dead. There's no doubt about that, but whether Batman finally snapped his scrawny neck or some other sinister force in Gotham City did the deed is still a mystery. Problem is, Batman can't remember, and the more he digs into this labyrinthian case, the more his mind starts to doubt everything he's uncovering. So who better to set him straight than John Constantine? Problem with that is, as much as John loves a good mystery, he loves messing with people's heads even more. So with John's help, the pair will delve into the sordid underbelly of Gotham as they race towards the mind-blowing truth of who murdered the Joker. And it's going to be bi-monthly. And it's a horror story told by Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermergio. And we've got Jim Lee's done a variant cover for it. So I'm kind of interested in this because Batman's really good when Batman does horror. So I really want to see where this is going. The only thing that kind of like wards me off it slightly is this whole DC Black Label thing. Because that's the part of it that I don't know about. Like, I mean, I love Batman. I love when Batman does horror. Horror is really good set in Gotham. I just don't know. I mean, I know what DC Black Label is kind of supposed to be. I just don't know what it really means yet. And like, I don't want to be. I don't want this to lose itself in trying to be like really edgy, you know, because I think this has potential to be a really cool story. And I guess that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about it getting lost in its own edge, if that makes sense.
I mean, that's a DC issue through and through, though, right? So let's just wait and see where that goes.
Hey, you leave DC alone.
I didn't say nothing. What else have you got then? Speaking of like edgy and dark.
I quite like the idea of this, but it's the DC Black Label thing that puts me off. I don't know why DC have to do the DC Black Label, but we'll see. The other stuff that I'm looking at for that week, we've got Ice Cream Man number 7, which I'm always looking forward to these, and I will always mention them when they're coming out. And this one, the story is called My Little Poltergeist. And the blurb here says, another sullen sequential short. Here's a little girl's best friend comes back from the dead. Or does she? It's hard to say, ghosts being an unreliable sort. So, what do we make of that, Ray?
I mean, it's Ice Cream Man. I'm going to pick it up. It sounds
great.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to pick it up. I just wondered if you had any kind of bearing on what direction that's going to go in.
I have. You know what? I feel like you think that I know more about the horror genre than I actually do. Where do you think it's going?
Well, either they're going to think that she's crazy and lock her away because they're going to think she's talking to an invisible friend, or it's going to end in some really kind of horrible, sad way where maybe the other girl will die as well. I don't know. Maybe
both. It's going to be horrible and sad regardless.
Yeah, it's Ice Cream Man. It does what it does. It's misery sprinkles on a double scoop of horror, which is great. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And the last one that I had for that week was one that stuck out in the Marvel stable, and that is Infinity War's Soldier Supreme. Classified 4F by the military, Stephen Rogers was unable to serve his country in World War II until a secret government program tapping into arcane sorcery transformed him into the Soldier Supreme, the magical warrior embodiment of the American spirit. So this is what if Captain America was Doctor Strange?
Sold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, that's where that's going, and that's why I put that on my list. I don't think I need to say much more about that. The creative team on that one, we've got Jerry Duggan, Adam Kubert, and Humberto Ramos, who has the cover and variant cover. Jerry Duggan is obviously writer, and Adam Kubert is the artist. So yeah, give that one a look. Ray, got anything from you for that week?
Nothing new really. I've got Mr. Miracle number 11, but that's kind of a given. That's like on Ice Cream Man levels of have to read.
Yeah.
And then the collected first volume of Skyward, which is a number 1 issue that I spoke about quite a few months ago. It must have been now.
Yeah, and Mr. Miracle number 11 means it's nearly the end.
Almost the end. Yeah. That one I'll be sad about, because even though I like endings, I love this. I love this book so much. So yeah. I don't want it to end.
I think it's going to be a really cool ending. I'm looking forward to it. It's building up to something really loud and really good.
I've no doubt. Yeah, I've no doubt that it's going to have a ton of pathos, and it's going to get us all crying.
The crescendo. The crescendo of dreams. Yes. And that brings us to a close for the pool list. And that weekend, in fact, of the week where NCBD, the 19th to the 9th, is in fact Thought Bubble, where you will be able to catch us in Leeds, wandering around the weekend convention, checking out some of the cool stuff that's going on. And, some of the awesome guests that are going to be there and everything else. So, Ray, anything at Thought Bubble that you are particularly looking forward to?
I'm not fully clued up on what to expect from this. I've never been to one. There's a few celebrity artists and writers that I'm looking forward to seeing. So Jamie McKelvey and Kieran Gillen of The Wicked and Divine fame. Simon Spurrier, who's a favourite of yours.
Yep.
There's a bunch here. It seems like there's a really good lineup, and on Twitter I've been just following. I follow a lot of comic book artists, or just comic artists and artists in general.
Yeah.
And there's a few that I really like that are on Twitter that will be coming. Selling their wares, selling their new books and stuff. So there's a bunch of people I've already tagged, set aside their Twitter handles, and hoping to have a quick chat and let them know that I appreciate their work, which is what it's all about, really.
Yeah, I mean, well, looking at some of the people that are going to be there, some of the people that I'd be looking forward to seeing around would be Liba Mayho is going to be there, who is the artist on this new Batman book, Batman Damned. Okay. Ivan Brandon of Verses, which is a image book that I've been reading.
Oh, cool! Yeah.
We've got.
Oh, Karen Berger's going to be there. That'd be cool.
Yeah, Karen Berger, that would be pretty cool. Greg Rucker's going to be there.
Oh, nice.
Yep, Alex Maliev.
Oh, yeah, Magdalene Visaggio, who I was talking about with Eternity Girl. That'd be epic.
Alison Sampson.
Oh, cool.
Brian Stelfreeze.
Oh, there's loads. There's loads of these names. The problem is with this website is that all the names are clumped together in one big block, and it's kind of hard to discern them all.
I know.
So, when you're saying these names that I 100% recognize, but I can't pick them out from the massive names in this one page.
Yeah, there's going to be some of my favourite comic artists there, actually. So yeah, it's going to be really cool. And there's some other really good stuff going on over the weekend as well, like various events and things during the convention itself. So, and there's going to be some really cool things to check out. And we'll be wandering around having fun.
Yeah, you'll spot us in our Ace Comical t-shirts that we should be wearing the entire weekend. And if you happen to be a fan and you want to come and have a chat, by all means do that. I'd be surprised, considering that it turns out from the metrics that I look at obsessively, most of our fan base is in California. But if you happen to be traveling across from the West Coast to Leeds for Thought Bubble, then by all means come over and
say hi. Yeah. Come and say hi to us. It'd be interesting to meet some fans, actually.
Oh my god, John Allison's going to be there. Sweet.
Yep. It'd be interesting to meet some listeners and just kind of get some feedback that way. Actually, I quite like that.
Yeah, we love talking to people.
Yeah,
let's do that.
We love talking to people so much that we record it. So we talk to each other and record it. But yeah, Thought Bubble, and we're looking really forward to Thought Bubble, and all three of us will be there. So yeah,
indeed,
walking around in black and yellow t-shirts. So that has been Ace Comicals episode number 43. You can find us to listen to us in various places. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Castro. You can find us on Facebook under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Twitter at Ace Comicals. You can find us on Instagram as Ace Comicals. You can find all of these things on our main website, which is our hub for everything, and that is www.acecomicals.com. You can find us, I think I may have already mentioned, but we're on Spotify as well, so you can find us on Spotify there. If you want to get in touch with us, you can through our email address, which is acecomicals@gmail.com, or obviously you can tweet at us, DM us on Twitter, and we'll respond. I'm available on Twitter under @Bato, so you can find me and you can tweet at me, or you can DM your questions to me. Ray, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter, so that's at Monkeh, so at MOONKEH. And we've recently had a really big upswing in listeners. And I'd be really curious to find out where you've all come from. Like, it's definitely a good thing. We want to hear how you found us and what you like about us. So if you have any comments or, feedback, suggestions, questions, whatever, by all means, send them either to the email or, directly to us on Twitter. Or if you happen to be at Thought Bubble, shout them in our faces.
Yes, but not literally.
I mean, maybe. We don't know how busy and loud it's going to be.
Yeah. So we also have a Ko-fi page or Coffee. I'm still not sure how to pronounce it, but it's there. And if
the whole point of the website is buy me a coffee. It's not buy me a Ko-fi. Buy me a coffee.
I don't know. It's like hyphenated and stuff. It's hard. But yeah.
Buy me a coffee. Yeah, all right. John Coffey.
Yeah, John Coffey, yeah. But no, it's our coffee website, so where you can, if you feel so inclined and you enjoy what we do, you can donate to us the price of a coffee, and all funds go to keeping the website lights on. So, and keeping the podcast up.
A worthy cause.
Yes. So, that has been Ace Comicals number 43. That is Ace Comicals, over and out.